চাবিটা এটা ধোয়াইতে দিয়ে দাও টেবিল উপরে, কপলেট টেবিল উপরে। Okay, good morning to all of you. So the slide is visible. Anyone, please respond. Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. No. Today we will discuss another type of white box testing. Again, that is coming under coverage-based testing. We have already discussed earlier fault-based testing. The example is mutation testing. So now we are discussing about the coverage-based testing, such as statement coverage, branch coverage, path coverage, all those things. So one more type of coverage testing is there, which is related to path testing. Let's finish up this. This is actually very modern software testing technique. So you will not find this thing from any book. I have given some references from journal papers. This is research area people are doing. So I thought I must emphasize several tools are available for this. In one of the lab class, you will take up any tool which will be used for concurrent testing. So today many students have joined new BTech students. So I advise them to go through the earlier classes. The slides are already available in this Microsoft team I have uploaded. And wherever there is doubt, they may contact me. So today we'll take up this new testing technique that is called as concurrent testing. First discuss a little bit introduction. Actually, introduction to white box testing we have already discussed earlier, so we will not discuss that thing. Some fundamental concepts which will be required to understand on the concurrent testing. Then we'll discuss some of the related work carried out in the area of concurrent testing. Okay, so these introduction things are easy. These we have already discussed earlier. We will not discuss. One more point here I want to say that what is the relationship between reliability and coverage. So reliability and coverage model. That means what should be the coverage? You may take statement coverage or branch coverage or path coverage, whatever that may be. So for which coverage, how much reliability a software should be? Reliability means it's the ability of the software or the what we can say the trustworthiness of the software. What is the probability that the customer the software will fail? That depends upon the reliability, the trustworthiness of a software. So you can see that if the coverage is low and and your reliability also low, then it is highly undesirable. You should not develop this type of softwares. If the coverage is low but it is highly reliable, still then it is risky because you are covering your achieved coverage, maybe statement coverage, branch coverage or path coverage is very low. Even if reliability is high, these types of software are very risky. If the coverage is high but reliability is very less, frequently it will fail. Nobody will prefer that one. It is a suspect model. Should not, even if coverage is high, but since reliability is low, it will frequently fail. So that's why this is a suspect model. What is desirable is your coverage should be high as well as the reliability should be high. That means the number of failure per unit time should be very less. It should be trustable. It should have high trustworthiness. So desirable is what? The coverage should be low. Sorry, the coverage should be high as well as the reliability of the software should be high. Then we say that this is a desirable software. So in this way, the reliability and the coverage could be related. Other things that we have already known earlier, we will not discuss these things. Okay. So these things already has been discussed in the last class, previous class. So these are easy things. Please read yourself. Now I will come to another important thing called as RTCA DO 178B or C standards. So this RTCA is a standard. It stands for Radio Technical Commission for Aeronautics. So normally this the standard was used in aeronautics industry. So RTCA stands for Radio Technical Commission for Aeronautics, maybe for movement of the what controlling this what controlling the flying of the aeroplanes. So there are two popular industry standards, RTCA standards, DO 178B as well as DO 278B. These are used to assure the safety of avionics software, because you know this avionics software is a highly safety critical software. If a minor bug will be there, the aeroplane will crash in the air. So these so that's why they should be highly reliable. So these two standards, DO 178B and DO 278, they are used to assure the safety of the avionics software. So the advanced version of DO 178B is called as DO 178C. So this is the advanced version of DO 178B. So this DO 178C, it includes the coverage analysis of object-oriented programs used in safety of avionics software. So if you are using like function-oriented programs or what your procedure-oriented programs, then the corresponding standard is DO 178 or DO 278B. But if you are considering the coverage analysis of object-oriented software, object-oriented programs, then this version is not applicable, DO 178B. In that case, you have to use DO 178C. These documents provide guidance in the areas of software development, configuration management, verification, and the interface to approval authorities. Okay, so these documents, DO 178B or DO 278B or DO 178C. So these documents, what do they provide? They provide sufficient guidance in the areas of software development, how you will develop software for avionics purposes, how you will manage the configuration, how you will perform verification and validation activities, verification and the interface to approval authorities. So these documents will provide the guidance in the areas of software development, configuration management, verification, and interface to the approval authorities. FAA might be some federal avionics authority also. So in this way, as I have already told you, for aeronautics, what avionics, the software should be highly error-free. So in order to ensure that some standards are required, and those standards are like RTCA DO 170B, DO 278B, or DO 178C. So which kind of testing you should do so that you will get this RTCA DO 170B or C. So you have to perform either MCDC testing or what your concolic testing. Then only you may get the certification from RTCA DO 178B or C. So that's why this MCDC testing and concolic testing, they are very much important to get certification from RTCA DO 178B or C. Okay. So these are some of the levels of software depending upon the criticality. So different failure conditions require different software conditions. Actually, there are 5 levels. So you can see that if the failure condition is catastrophic, a small mistake will land into problem that hundreds of lives will be lost or crores of rupees will be lost. So those are examples of what catastrophic what conditions. For that, the software level should be rated as what level A, highly critical, level A. If the software, if the failure condition is hazardous, severe, major, that means a small error in that program will cause to again maybe a few lives lost, like you are developing a medical a software for the medical equipment and a small error will take the life of the patient, then those will say that hazardous. or that X-ray kind of things. If you are monitoring developing a software, or some radiation, you are developing some software for some radiation equipments, etc. So these are, we can say that failure concern is hazardous or severe. If a small minor error is there, so some leave will be lost. So we call them, these are the failure concerns may be rated as major, and for that the software level is told as B. So this is little bit less critical than level A. Then simply this you say that hazardous or severe measure, then normal measure. So again little bit less than this severe measure, we rate as level C. There are some minor failure concerns. If these concerns will occur, nothing such great loss will occur. Lives will not be lost. Crores of rupees will be lost. Just a minor effect. We call them as they are rated as software level D, and no effect. Even if there are some problems, there might be the GUI kind of problems. No effect will occur. No effect will be there on the software. We rate them as software level DE. So in this way, these are the different failure conditions, and they require different software conditions. There are 5 levels, and the software may be rated as either level A, level B, level C, or level D, or level E, depending upon the failure condition. Okay, these are the different levels of software. So these what are the relationships of the coverages? We have already discussed this coverage earlier, like statement coverage, branch coverage, decision coverage, MCDC, MCC, etc. So you can see a brief summary I have shown here. These are the relation of the coverage. The legend are like that. These squares represent the coverage criterion, and arrow reply that implies. So what does it mean? That MCDC coverage implies condition decision coverage, that we have discussed earlier. So if you are performing MCDC coverage, it implies that condition decision coverage is also achieved. Similarly, condition decision coverage automatically implies decision coverage is achieved as well as condition coverage is achieved. MCC stands for multiple condition coverage. If you are achieving MCC coverage, it automatically implies that you have also achieved condition coverage. Similarly, if you have achieved path coverage, which we have discussed in the last class, it automatically achieves that LCSAJ coverage. LCSAJ means linear condition sequence and jump kind of constructs. Okay. So if you are achieving, it's just similar to statement coverage, which we have discussed earlier. So if you have achieved path coverage, it implies that automatically you have achieved LCSAJ coverage. If you have achieved LCSAJ coverage, it automatically implies that you have achieved statement coverage and decision coverage. So if you have achieved statement coverage, it automatically achieves that you have also it implies that you have also achieved function coverage. Okay, so these are the different meanings of the coverages. Which coverage automatically implies that what other coverage you have achieved. So only the new thing is here LCSAJ coverage. So one more slide I have added here. What is LCSAJ coverage? LCSAJ coverage stands for linear code sequence and jump coverage. Okay, it stands for linear code sequence and jump coverage. It is also a white box testing technique to identify the code coverage, basically the code coverage based technique. Where does it begin? It begins at the start of the program or the branch, and it ends at the end of the program or the branch. So if you say ordinarily LCSAJ is equivalent to the statement coverage, you can see that. If you have achieved LCSAJ means you achieved statement coverage ordinarily. But if you have achieved LCSAJ coverage, that means besides statement coverage, you have also achieved decision coverage. So these things already you have discussed earlier. Those who are not there, you can please see the Naresh Chauhan book. All those coverage are explained there. This table also I have already shown you. These are the different types of coverage and what are the criteria they satisfy. Like if you are achieving statement coverage means automatically it means that every statement in the program has been invoked at least once. If you are using decision coverage, it means that every point of entry and exit in the program has been invoked at least once. Okay, every program might have a entry point and exit point. So every point of entry and exit in the program has been invoked at least once, and every decision. Decision means what? Every branch in the program, like all the if else conditions, the then part as well as the else part. So each part has been executed at least once. Every decision in the program has taken all possible outcomes at least once. All possible outcome means once true, once false. What do you mean by condition coverage? Same thing. It achieves every entry and exit criteria. Every entry of every point of entry and exit in the program has been invoked at least once. Plus every condition in a decision in the program has taken all possible outcomes at least once. Every possible outcome means once true, once false. And condition and decision coverage means both what you have achieved through decision coverage, what condition coverage, union of this that you achieve in condition decision coverage. MCDC means again what is there, what you have, I have already told you. NCDC means the decision coverage, the plus the condition coverage plus one extra. What is that extra? This bullet is extra. That is, every condition in a decision has been shown to independently affect that decision's outcome. So by changing only one condition, you can independently change, it will affect the whole output of the condition. This is called as MCDC. And MCC means multiple condition coverage. All those things satisfied by decision coverage, condition coverage, and condition decision coverage plus one extra. What is extra? That all the conditions, every combination of condition outcomes within a decision has been invoked at least once. All the possible combinations will be executed at least once. So if a in a complex conditional statement, if there are n number of conditions, then according to NCFC, we require all the possible conditions means how many? All the possible combinations to the power n. So if there are 3 conditions, we have to design 2 to the power 3, 8 number of test cases. But in MCC, I have already told it is linear in nature. You require only n plus 1 test cases. So if there are 3 conditions, you require only 3 plus 1, that is 4 test cases using MCDC, where you require 2 to the power q, that is 8 number of test cases in MCC coverage. This is the advantage of MCDC. Here the coverage is more, but also the effort required, the time required will be more. That's why MCDC is the second strongest coverage criteria, and this is heavily used in industry. Okay, these are the types of structural coverage we have already seen earlier. And this strongest, you can see the strong feature, it increases from left to right. That is, the statement coverage, the weakest strategy, and this multiple concern coverage, the strongest strategy. Okay, so these things we have seen earlier. Now we'll go to this concurrent testing. Before going to concurrent testing, I have to say a few definitions. These definitions you have already known earlier. Just I will quickly refresh your memory. What is a predicate or a Boolean expression? You have already known. A predicate means it is an expression that evaluates to a Boolean value, isn't it? These things already you have known earlier in your BTech career. A predicate is an expression that evaluates to a Boolean value and which is required for our approach. So this predicate we will use in our approach. A simple example of a predicate I have given here: A greater than B or C and Px. So this is a predicate. So the predicates may contain some Boolean variables, some non-Boolean variables that are compared with relational operators. Here I have used less than relational operators like your less than, greater than, etc. And calls to function that return a Boolean value. It will return a Boolean value, all 3 of which may be joined with logical operator. So all those things, all those 3 things like Boolean variables, non-Boolean variables, relational operators, they can be joined with some logical operators like and or. Okay, this is what is a Boolean expression that or the predicate that you have already known earlier. So just like that, we have discussed statement coverage, branch coverage, condition coverage. Here we will discuss a coverage called as predicate coverage. So predicate coverage means for each predicate small p, it is not S, it should be belongs to. So for each predicate B belonging to the capital set, the set of predicates P, the test requirement for predicate coverage is what? The test requirement for predicate coverage contains 2 requirements. That is, the predicate P, it evaluates to true once, and then the predicate P, it evaluates to false next time. So that means you should design the test case in such a way that each and every predicate will be covered once, and once the predicate P will be assigned the true value, or the predicate P, it evaluates to true once, and then the predicate P evaluates to false next. So next definition is clause or atomic condition. A clause is a predicate that does not contain any of the logical operators. Okay, so what do you mean by a clause or atomic condition? A clause is a predicate which does not contain any of the logical operators. So if I will take my previous example, A greater than B or C and Px, it contains, you can see 3 clauses. What are those? A relational expression A greater than B, a Boolean variable C, and a Boolean function called Px. So these are 3 clauses present in this predicate. Okay. Similarly, predicate coverage, we have to see what is clause coverage. So clause coverage means, again, this is not S, this is a, this should be belongs to. For each clause C belonging to the set of clauses capital C, the test requirement for clause coverage contains two requirements. What are the two requirements? That the clause, each clause evaluates to true ones and each clause C evaluates to false. So once you should design the test case in such a way that each clause will be evaluated once true and next time false. This is known as clause coverage. So statement coverage we have already seen earlier, no need to see again. Branch coverage also we have seen earlier, we will not discuss again. Okay. So now I am taking this utilities GCD computation program which you have taken earlier. Here you can see there are so many predicates, so many clauses. You can see yourself. Those predicates and clauses will be used for performing this concurrent testing. So the test cases for statement coverage, this example I have already discussed in the last class. I will not discuss again. We are running out of time. So this is what statement coverage testing. We require only 3 test cases to test this GCD competition program. But for branch coverage, you require 1 more. That is 4 test cases. This also I have already shown you in the last class. Now we have also known that branch coverage is a stronger testing than coverage-based testing. Statement coverage testing, that also we have discussed in the last class. I am skipping that one. Now I am coming to the proper topic. What is concurrent testing? So concurrent testing is defined as follows. This concurrent comes from 2 words, concrete and symbolic. From concrete you see the word CO, from concrete CON is coming, and from symbolic BOLIC is coming. So this concrete plus symbolic, it is named as concolic. The concept of concolic testing, it combines the concrete constraints execution and symbolic constraints execution. Okay, the concept of concolic testing combines 2 things. It combines the concrete constraint execution and the symbolic constraint execution to automatically generate test cases for achieving full path coverage. So it is a coverage based testing. Why this testing is required? To achieve full path coverage. Just like yesterday we have discussed only linearly independent paths we have covered yesterday, last class. But now for achieving full coverage, you can use this concolic testing. The concept of concolic testing combines the concrete constraints execution and the symbolic constraints execution to automatically generate test cases for full. So two things we use here: concrete constraints as well as symbolic constraints. Concrete means the exact value you will take 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Symbolic constraint means some symbols will use I0, I1, 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 I2, etc. So by using the concrete constraints and the symbolic constraints, we can perform concolic testing. This concolic testing generates tests executing the program with random values. Okay, so this concolic testing, how does it generate test cases? So this concolic testing generates test suits by executing the program with some random values. It automatically will generate some random values, random test cases, then it will test the program. We'll show with some example. At execution time, both concrete and symbolic values are saved for execution path. So it will create a execution path. At execution time, both the concrete values and the symbolic values, they are saved for execution path. Now during execution, the variables are stored in some symbolic values such as x0, y0 instead of x and y. So if the values are x and y, we require 2 things: concrete constraints like the exact numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. and some symbolic values. It does not store the variables such as x and y. Instead, the symbolic values or the variables are stored in terms of some symbolic values such as x0, y0 or I0, I1, like that. So during the execution, the variables x and y are stored in form of some symbolic values such as x0 or y0, I0 or I1, etc. Instead of storing them, the values as x and y. During execution, the variables are stored in some symbolic values, so that this already I have explained. The next iteration of the process forces the selection of different parts. So in every iteration, the next iteration of the process, it forces the selection of different parts. Okay. Now we'll see about this details of the concolic testing. Here the tester selects a value from the path constraints and negates the values to create a new path value. This is very much important. In concurrent testing, the tester selects a value from where? From the path constraints. Then what does it do? It tries to negate the values. It negates the, okay, no, and then it tries to negate, and then it negates the values to create a new path value. What is the constraint? It will first generate some random number test and then it will negate it so that another path can be covered, another test case can be generated, another path can be. The tester selects a value from the path constraints and negates the values to create a new path value. Then the tester finds concrete constraints to satisfy the new path values. So first it selects a value from the path constraints and then negates the values to create a new path value. Then the tester finds some concrete constraints like exact values 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Or whether the x value is less than y or not. Then the tester finds some concrete constraint to satisfy the new path values. The selection of a value is responsible by the constraint solver, which is a part of the concurrent tester. So how to select the values? Here saying the tester selects a value from the past constraints. How to select the value? Who will select the value? The selection of the values is what performed by the constraint solver. So in the concurrent tester, there is a component called as constraint solver. That is automatic. You need not have to do it manually. The constraint solver automatically select the values. It will randomly select the values to cover all the paths. The selection of values is performed by the constraint solver, which is a part of the concurrent tester. So these constraints are inputs for all next executions. For all subsequent executions, for all next execution, these constraints, what you are getting, maybe by using the constraint solver, they become the inputs for the all next execution. So these constraints which you will get by by using the constraint solver, they will be serving as the inputs for all next executions. This concurrent testing is performed iteratively until exceeds the threshold value or sufficient code coverage obtained. So how we are going to stop the testing process? So this testing process will be performed till you getting sufficient code coverage, maybe 100% path coverage, or achieving a threshold value, maybe what what to say, all the paths or 90% paths are covered like this. So this concurrent testing is performed iteratively until it exceeds the threshold value or it achieves some sufficient code coverage or sufficient code coverage is obtained, like say 100% path coverage or so. Now I'll explain it through a small example. Please try to understand. I have taken a very small code, only 4 lines of code I have taken, and I will try to explain the concept of concurrent testing. How the constraint solver, which is a part of the concurrent tester, it generates the test cases. I am again repeating, it takes two values, the concrete value and the symbolic value, or the concrete constraints and the symbolic constraints. In symbolic constraints, I will use the values like x0, y0 or i1, i0, i1, i2 instead of using x and y. And in concrete values, we will exactly value this 1, 2, 3, 4 or the exact constraints that we'll use. So here we have taken a very small example. First we are giving input which will be stored for in x, then we will supply the second input which will be stored in y, and it does what? If it sees if x is greater than y, then assert that x is not equal to 100. So this is a small example. I want to generate test cases for this program. So what does it do first? First it reads two input values x and y, and then there is the assertion x is not equal to 100. What we will do, we will try to generate test cases. We want to violate this. So this is a constraint, x is not equal to 100. So we'll try to generate test cases by violating this. We'll try to violate this. We want to violate this. Okay, we try to violate this. Now what we'll do? As concurrent testing is says, as concurrent testing, what will do? It uses some random values. The tester selects some random values. It will automatically generate. You will not generate. Let us assume that the tester generates two random values for x and y. It assigns first x is equal to 5 to x and 10 to y. So assign random values to x and y. Then what does it do? So it will store the values in the computer memory. As I have already told in concurrent testing, there are two types of what values: concrete values and symbolic values. Let's see what are the values here. You can see that the variable x, for variable x, what concrete value we are giving? We are giving 5. And automatically this concurrent tester, it will say, it will store a symbolic value for x. So x is saved as either x0 or i0. Here I have chosen i0. This is a symbolic value. X is saved as i0. Instead of storing as x in the computer memory, x is stored as a symbolic value i0. So 5 is the concrete value here, i0 is the symbolic value here. Similarly for y, you can see the concrete value is 10 and it is stored in the memory as another symbolic value, maybe i1. In some of the cases, this is for your understanding, it may store as x0, x1, also possible. So in this way, the random test cases for x and y are chosen, or the random values for x is 5, which is the symbolic value is stored as i0, and y is given as 10, and symbolic value is i1. This will be automatically performed by the concurrent tester. So in the concurrent testing, what is the objective? To cover all the paths, all the constraint paths will be covered. So we have to generate one kind of tree, just like a CFG, we are generating a graph. So here the concurrent tester automatically it will construct a tree and try to cover all the paths in that tree. So what will the execution tree? Here it first says with these values 5 and 10, what is the relationship here? You can see i0 is less than i1. See, the execution tree is like this. With this random test cases 5, 10, which constraint is satisfied? I0 is greater than I1. Sorry, I0 is less than I1. I0 corresponds to X, I1 corresponds to Y. So I0 is less than equal to I1. Okay. So this is the first path we have got with these random test cases. Then what we'll do? Now what is our objective? Assert X not equal to Y. Assert X not equal to 100. And what I will do? I want to in concurrent testing, I have told the principle. First you take some values, then you try to negate the constraint. Whatever constraint you are getting, you try to negate it. So with these values, what constraint we have got? You can see with the values, random test case values 5 and 10, we are getting the constraint I left to I1. So this is one path. So what we should do in concurrent testing, once you are getting a constraint or once you are getting a path, you try to negate the constraint so that another path you can constrain. So if I will negate I0 is less than equal to I1, what I will get? The constraint, when it will negated, we will get I0 is greater than I1. See? So negate the constraint. So that means I0 or select I0 and I1 in such a way that I0 should be greater than I1. So negate the constraint I0 is less than I1. That means generate the test cases or generate the values for I0 and I1 in such a way that I0 should be greater than I1. Okay. So now you know I0 corresponds to X, I1 corresponds to Y. So that means choose the values of X and Y in such a way that I0 will be greater than I1. This is as a person you are not doing. The constraint solver, which is a part of the concurrent tester, it will automatically negate the constraints after every execution. It will negate the constraint. So what it will do? So suppose it is what values also randomly. So now suppose after negating the constraints, deciding the I0 and I1 in such a way that I corresponds to Y. So now it automatically selects 22X and 3 is assigned to Y. So now I0 is 20, I1 is equal to 3. So you can see that I0 now is greater than 1. Sorry, I0 is greater than I1, that is 20 is greater than 3. So what are the test cases? How we are solving? How we are storing? Now in place of x, instead of the previous value, we have put to 10, and the symbolic value is still I0. For y, now we have put 3, and you know y corresponds to I1. So now the new values, new test cases are 20 and 3. And what path it starts? From this execution tree. Now by negating the constraints, it is going to another path. What does it say? What is the new constraint? I0 is greater than I1. How the constraint solver got this constraint? By negating this I0 less than I1. This constraint is negated by the constraint solver, and it is generating a new constraint. I0 is greater than I1. Accordingly, we are getting a new path. And the constraint solver is choosing the values of I0 and I1 in such a way that I0 is greater than I1. So I0 is 20 now, and I1 is equal to 3 now. Okay. So first constraint is satisfied. This is the constraint. X is greater than Y was there, the actual constraint. So once they have taken less than or equal to Y, and then after negating, they have taken X is greater than Y, or I0 is greater than I1. Next, what the constraint solver does? It will come to the next constraint. So there are two constraints you can see. One is the if constraint, another is the assert constraint. So now this line will be executed. Assert x not equal to 200, and you see it is true now with this value. With this 23, you will see I0 equal to 100. No, I0 value is 20. So that means this constraint x is not equal to 100. It is automatically executed. So next path is from I0 is greater than I1, which is this constraint. Next constraint is I0 is not equal to 100. This is satisfied. Now in order to generate another test case, what we have to do? In concurrent testing, automatically the constraint solver, it will change, it will negate this constraint. What is this constraint? X is not equal to 100, or I0 is not equal to 100. Now it will what? Negate it. So when it will negate this constraint I0 not equal to 100, what you will get? I0 equal to 100. So now negate it. So negate the constraints in such a way that, or negate the constraint, that means generate I0 and I1 in such a way that first I0 is greater than I1, and because you see, please mark out this original program. If x is greater than y, then assert x is not equal to y. This part is already satisfied. That x is greater than y, here I0 is greater than I1, assert x not equal to 100, it is already true. I0 not equal to 100. Now I have to negate this one. This one is already obtained by what? By negating I0 less than equal to I1. So then by negating this statement I0 not equal to 100, then you will get what? Another constraint. So generate I0 and I1 in such a way that I0 should be greater than I1 and I0 should be equal to 100. That means I have to negate this constraint, assert x not equal to 100. I am again saying I am not doing the constraint solver, which is a part of the concurrent tester. This is doing automatically. So if you will negate this thing, what you will do? We have to choose I0 in such a way that I0 is equal to 100. That means automatically you have to take the I0 value equal to 100 only. So this means I have chosen the value of x in such a way that x is 100, and any value you can take, say 4. So generate I0 and I1 in such a way that two constraints will be satisfied. I0 will be greater than I1, and value of I0 is equal to 100. So value of I0 I must have to take 100, and any value for I1, say 4 I have taken. So what will there? So now it will follow another path. And what will the values will be stored? For I0 value 100 will be stored in the memory. For Y4 will be stored, or I1 the value 4 will be stored in the memory. And what path it will take? From I0, what greater the first it is taking I0 greater than I1. Yes, 100 is greater than 4. This is the path. And then this path x is equal not equal to 100. Now it is negated, so we are getting I0 is equal to 100. So you can see that this is the concurrent execution. The concurrent tester, it will automatically do like this, so that it is creating all the possible test cases to see if there any error is there. Whatever the given constraints, they are also satisfied, and the constraints are negated, so that other paths could be possible, other possible paths could be explored, and the test cases can be designed. So here you can see that 3 paths are explored. First is that I0 is less than equal to I1, or x is less than y I greater than I1 and I0 equal to 100 and I1 not equal to 100. So, okay. So, if you see here only one path you can say why x is not equal to 100. Which path this is? The rightmost path. I0 is greater than I1 and I0 not equal to 100. And what our objective? We should cover all the possible paths. So that's why another possible path could be there. X is equal to 100. That's why choose the values of I0 and I1 in such a way that I0 is greater than I1 and I0 equal to 100. Another case that negate x greater than y, so that x will be what after negating will get x is not equal to y. Sorry, x is less than y. That I have taken here. Another path I0 is not equal to I1. Just like in equivalence partitioning, what we are doing? We are taking all the positive cases, all the valid cases, as well as all the invalid cases. So similarly, first you take here the then you will get the positive test cases, then you get the validness test cases, then you negate each constraint, you will get the invalid test cases. So in this way, you can say that in this program, there are possible 3 paths. All the 3 paths are covered by this concolic testing. Okay. So concolic testing technique here explore total 3 paths. For example, program I have already shown. These are the 3 paths. Number 1 path to I0 and y. These are I have already shown. First I have taken 5 and 10, then 20 and 3, then 100 and 4. So in this way, it generates 3 test cases to cover all the 3 paths. So this is a path coverage based testing. All the paths will be explored. This is a very strong. This is one of the strongest technique. This is one of the strongest what your the coverage based testing. This is one of the strongest. This is one of the strongest path coverage based testing techniques. Then this concolic testing can be extended to distributed environment. This is known as distributed concolic testing. So distributed concolic testing is an extension out of the original concolic testing approach that uses several computing nodes in a distributed manner. This is appropriate. This is applicable to distributed environment. It significantly reduces the time to generate test cases with better efficiency. Since you can use multiple nodes, multiple computing nodes, it significantly reduces the time to generate test cases with better efficiency. Concolic testing is the combination of concrete and concolic symbolic testing. In addition, concolic testing is the combination of concrete and symbolic testing. In addition, the distributed concolic testing is scalable and achieves a linear speed up by using a large number of computing nodes for test case generation. Of course, it is scalable. It can be speeded up. Here, you can compute the test cases in less time because you are using parallelly. The algorithm can run parallelly on multiple nodes, so it will again speed up. The test cases can be generated in less time for a large number or for large scale programs. There are many concolic testers. I will give a glimpse of that. In table 1, we have compared many concolic testing tools. Many tools are available. We'll give a summary of that. So in table 1, we have compared concolic testing tools with respect to following parameters or features, like what kind of variable types they can handle, whether they can handle pointers or not, whether they can handle native calls or not, whether they perform non-linear arithmetic operations or not, whether they support bitwise operations or not, whether they support array of sets or not, whether they support function pointers or not. Okay, so that you can see here. This is a table I have given. So many numbers of testing tools available I have shown here, and here y means that the feature is supported. Y means that the tool supports the feature. N means that the tool does not support the feature. P means the tool partially support the feature, and NA means that is not known. Like the first tool is DAT. It is some directed acyclic something random testing tool. The full form we can see from the book, and it supports language C. Whether it's supporting platform, this is not known. It supports constant solver. Yes, it uses a linear programming solver. It supports for float or double. No, it only supports integer. Does not support for float or double. Supports pointer. No, it doesn't support pointer. It supports native calls. No, it supports non-linear arithmetic operators. Is not known. Supports bitwise operators, it is not known. Supports offsets, no. Support function pointers, no. Like this, I have given so many tools, and you can have a look which kind of concolic tester supports what. Like suppose several supporting tools like Dart and Smart, they support C, functional programming languages. But if you want that Java is there or .NET is there, so then you should go for other tools like Jqt. It supports Java. It also works in Linux and both Windows environment. But some other tools like Crisp, exe, they are executed only in Linux environment. If you want the tool only for Windows environment, you can go for PEX, Sage, Apollo, etc. Okay. So this is a summary of the concolic testers with their properties. You can go to internet and solve all those things detail. And some tools are free, like Jqt and Crest. They are available freely. So you can have a look at them and you can download. I will try to cover at least one tool in the lab class. Which is held on Tuesday. Those who are interested, they may join for that lab class. How you can use these concolic testing tools. Okay. So many authors have done several works on concolic testing research area. My students have also done some of the works. So this is the comparison. This. Okay. So somebody has taken C program, somebody has taken embedded software, somebody has taken C and Java programs as input and generated the test cases. We will not discuss those things in detail. These are the characteristics of different approaches on concolic testing. Like some of the authors, only they have done generate test cases for C programs. Some of the authors, they have generated test cases as well as they have measured the coverage percentage. Some of the authors, they have determined the time constraints. Some of the authors also, they have computed the speed of their tool. They have also measured the they have also measured or they have also computed the speed of their testing process. So these are all research things. We will not discuss all those things. Okay. So as I have already told, this is not available in a book. I have taken from several research papers, but it's a very interesting tool. So if somebody wants to do any MTech thesis work or PhD work, they can take up this concolic testing. Right now, one student has already awarded, one PhD student was already awarded in this MCDC testing and concolic testing. One PhD student is going to submit his thesis in this concolic testing, MCDC testing and concolic testing. Those thesis papers are available in our website, Institute website, NITRIS portal. You can download them. So this is all about concolic testing. Thank you very much. Now let us take questions. Any questions, please? Yes, if there are. So this MCDC testing and concolic testing, they are highly interrelated. You can combine both the approaches, MCDC testing and concolic testing. These are two recent modern day testing strategies, very much applicable for safety critical systems like avionics software, for developing and testing avionics software. Highly impacted there. It's industry people, they use these testing techniques. So if you are interested, you can work on this. So if any doubt, we will take up. Those who are having classes, they may leave. Otherwise, those who are having any doubts can ask. I'll upload the slides. Maybe in the evening or so. Please have a look into this. Some of the papers available on MCDC testing and concolic testing in the internet as well as in our website. You can also go through them. So any other question? Okay, you may go through that. If any other question, please ask me in the next class. Next class will take up tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Okay, next class will take tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So if any doubt is there, you can ask me in the next class. I again sincerely request you, please read those things and carefully, and any doubt is there, ask me in the next class.